Now, of course, we've been covering what's been happening with these vaccines, the adverse effects of vaccines. We've been covering the latest data from Pfizer, which we got blocked for and banned. That's what got us taken off of YouTube. And of course, that story was correct. And it was their own data. It was their own data on their own website and on the CDC's website, which you could, of course, read it for yourself so you could see their concerns. We then, of course, covered earlier this week. If you missed that story, please go and watch it. We covered the Pfizer angle and the SEC filings, where they talked about how they don't want regulatory approval, or they don't think they're going to get regulatory approval, and therefore we should just basically keep the emergency use authorization going, because that way we won't have to have the pushback from the public on the problems with the vaccine. So now we're learning about Moderna and the troubles there. Now, Moderna has some pretty big problems on its hands as it relates to side effects and the efficacy of its latest vaccines. And not just COVID either, but their flu vaccine looks like it's not good. Well, which could help explain the emergency use authorization, which was now being pushed for their children under the ages of 6 vaccine. So this, of course, today, and this is how CNN, let me just play this. This is, I mean, if you just want to know how in the tank, by the way, CNN brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by all these pharmaceutical companies. Anderson Cooper 360 and our Health Watch is brought to you by Pfizer and all of these pharmaceutical companies that run ads on these channels. I wonder why they're so in the tank for these things. Here is how CNN reported this today.
From millions of parents with young children and babies. Moments ago, Moderna announced it is seeking emergency use authorization for its COVID vaccine for children 6 months through 5 years old. This has been the missing link. These people, kids, have not been covered, not been able to be vaccinated until this point.
Am I smiling? I think I'm smiling. The pharmaceutical giant.
Am I smiling? I'm so excited. I'm just so excited. Am I smiling? By the way, she never smiles. So the fact that she is that excited about something, I've never seen
2-year-old people. These people. I mean, they're babies,
right?
But they've been really crying over this. They've
been really excited about the emergency use authorization. But there's a lot of problems with this, right? I mean, this idea that, hey, we can't get regulatory approval for our vaccines because there's problems with our vaccines. So we're going to continue to push for the emergency use authorization. It's hard for me to say that.
Emergency use authorization.
Yeah,
now,
everyone at home, try to say it 5 times fast. Emergency use authorization. Now, this comes on a day. Should I play the Fauci soundbite here? Because
I was just going to say that. This comes on the day that Dr. Fauci told PBS that we are actually out of the pandemic stage of the pandemic. So maybe we should tell him not to use those words if we want to push along drugs under emergency protocols.
We're out of the pandemic stage. We're not out of the profit stage. So that's the problem.
And that's the way I see it, too. Well, I'll play the Fauci soundbite in a second. But, Philip, you nailed as Dr. Fauci likes to say in just about every interview I see with him, he likes to say, you just hit the nail on the head. So, Philip, you hit the nail on the head. And the point is that Moderna wants to squeeze as much money as they can out of these things, right? They want to make as much money as they can before they can't. And so, hey, we've gotten the elderly, we've got the middle-aged, we've got 16-year-olds, and now we've got to get these kids. They're having boardroom meetings and how can we maximize our profits? And by the way, we see this in their SEC filings. They're admitting this in their SEC filings, guys.
But they have also said that they're not sure that this vaccine covers Omicron. They think it is a smaller percentage, but it was not developed for Omicron, which is the dominant virus right now. So as a mother, I have a 5-year-old. I'm thinking to myself, do I give my 5-year-old this vaccine that doesn't cover Omicron when that is what is out in the world and there are all these lingering questions? So am I smiling?
No, you're not like Breonna Keeler.
Okay.
Over at
I want to be clear about how I feel about it.
No, she's really smiling though. She's like, I've never been this happy.
6 months through 5 years old. This has been the missing link. These people, kids, have not been covered, not been able to be vaccinated until this point.
Am I smiling? I think I'm smiling. The pharmaceutical giant.
I love the fanfare background music too, where it's just
breaking news. And I love how John Berman is so excited. He's like, this is huge. This is amazing.
They just need
We
the
have
Rebel
not.
Alliance in the background with the like they just blew up the Death Star and everybody's happy. I mean,
News is breaking. Ding,
This-
ding, 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 ding.
I'm gonna use my voice. This is amazing. We have not seen this before. This is a game changer. Unbelievable. Brianna, are you smiling? I hope you're smiling. I hope you're smiling. Are you smiling?
People, kids, have not been covered, not been able to be vaccinated until this point.
Am I smiling? I think I'm smiling. The pharmaceutical
So anyway, Dr. Fauci was asked about, hey, where are we in this pandemic? Judy Woodruff asked him this question. He's like, we're out of there. We're out of the pandemic phase. So as Philip pointed out, we're still in the profit phase. But here is Dr. Fauci in his own words to hit the nail on the head.
And ask you, here we are, it's the end of April, it's the spring of 2022. How close are we to the end of this pandemic?
Well, that's an unanswerable question for the following reason. And I don't want to be evasive about it, but let me tell you why I'm giving you that answer, Judy. We are certainly right now in this country out of the pandemic phase. Namely, we don't have 900,000 new infections a day and tens and tens and tens of thousands of hospitalizations and thousands of deaths. We are at a low level right now. So if you're saying, are we out of the pandemic phase in this country? We are.
Okay. So there you go. We are out of the pandemic phase in this country. So then it's going to be a little tricky for these companies now to try to push forward with their emergency use authorization for a pandemic.
Now, I just want to remind you that we've done this story many times on this show, but under a Freedom of Information Act, the Department of Health and Human Services found that the United States used $1 billion of taxpayer money to advertise the COVID vaccine on mainstream media, including ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and CNN. So, that coverage we just showed you of them getting so jubilant about new approval of another vaccine, right, is not unrelated, because they should be asking the question, is it safe for little babies, instead of doing cartwheels that the news exists, right? That is not unbiased news.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Oops. Sorry, Elf.
I thought it was funny
absolute-
that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it's funny that it was PBS asking him that question about the pandemic, and it was NPR that was actually like way back when they were still pushing the first booster, and they were interviewing people that were saying like, well, as far as we can tell, like shortly after the second booster, like as far as we can tell, its efficacy is only about like a month or so before it drops off. So they knew back then that like
Yes.
that it was not what they said it was. I mean, this was like way back. So
Yes.
it's just
Right.
interesting that they've actually been, I feel like they've actually done a fair better job of covering it. But then again, they're not as corporate backed as everybody else. So maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not
Yes.
doing cartwheels. Other problems, though, for Moderna with their flu vaccine. I mean, they've got problems on their flu vaccine front. I'll just pull this up. This is a problem. Their flu vaccine now is showing like big problems, and as Motley Fool reports, Moderna could have a big problem on its hands. The not so great side effects of Moderna's flu vaccine candidate could have even greater implications for the company. Renewed fears about COVID-19 have caused many to rethink their view of Moderna's prospects. However, any consideration of buying a vaccine stock needs to look beyond the near-term COVID-19 surges in China and Europe and look further down the road. Moderna could have a bigger problem on its hands, and that's all of the bad news as it relates to the flu vaccine. The company has had some good news to discuss. On Wednesday, Moderna reported that phase 2 of the third study evaluating COVID-19 vaccine Spikevax in children aged 6 to 6 years met its primary endpoint. That was understandably a key part of the company's presentation on at its Vaccines Day. I love that the company has a Vaccines Day. In addition, Moderna announced interim results on phase 2 of their flu vaccine, and it's not so good. Really, really bad, actually. And so there's, some troubling news there. But let's go back to the adverse effects, because now we're getting data from the UK as to what this looks like out of the UK and how the adverse effects of the Moderna vaccine. You can specifically go to their website and see the adverse effects for individual cases for the mRNA vaccine from Moderna. This is their COVID-19 and the adverse effects. You can see, blood lymphatic system disorders, cardiac disorders, congenital familiar and genetic disorders, ear and labyrinthal disorders, endocrine disorders, eye disorders, gastrointestinal disorders. The list is pretty long. You can see it broken down by age group as well. These, and by the way, 80,000 adverse effects. Remember, when you have like the VAERS reporting system in the United States, it only accounts for like what, 1% of the actual.
Yes.
So it's very, very small number that actually get reported. So
Yeah.
if you just like want to take this and then extrapolate the data from this, you could run with it.
Now I'm a mom of 3, so when I see this 0 to 1 month age group and see that 85 babies had adverse effects, I'm thinking, what mother of a newborn is like, yeah, okay, do this, and then feels awesome about having 85 babies? That's 85 too many.
Well, I know one person who's happy about it.
Till this point.
Am I smiling? I think I'm smiling.
I'm so excited. I can't wait for my kids to get this. I can't wait to stick my 5-year-old with this.
Speaking of waning efficacy, Dr. John Campbell had a video just 2 days ago that I'd like to refer to you called Waning Vaccine Efficacy in the UK, because it does talk about the antibody levels after the vaccine, after a certain number of weeks, and how there is a time that you do consider yourself more unprotected. And so it does feel like a treadmill. Like, do you want to stay on this treadmill to continue to need vaccines to keep yourself protected?
Meanwhile, the CDC has information on their website about this as well. So this is the CDC's website. So if YouTube, you're paying attention and you're thinking about doing anything to us again and blocking us or banning us, this is on the CDC's website. Okay. Just want to put that out there right here. What you need to know.
It's information.
This is information. Okay. Not misinformation. This comes right from the CDC. And according to their vaccine adverse event reporting system, here are the problems from these particular vaccines, especially in male adolescents and young adults, more often after the second dose, usually within the week of vaccination. They experience this, right? I'm going to read it to you. Well, you can read it here on your screen, so therefore I won't get taken down and blocked by YouTube or other platforms. But you can see just some of the problems with the myocarditis and the pericarditis right there on your screen. But let's rush these out there without regulatory approval. Let's push these through using the emergency use authorization. And Dr. Fauci, you better go back on what you just said about the pandemic ending, because we need to get emergency use authorization. Otherwise, people aren't going to actually approve these and we won't make money. That's the bottom line on all of this. This also comes on a day, by the way, when Denmark has now entered into this phase, which is they're ending their vaccination program. So Denmark is now done rolling out their vaccines. Denmark becomes the first country to suspend the COVID vaccine. Starting back on February 1st, they had identified the fact that it was that they were done and we are good. And like the panic is over. That was February 1st. So now this will end in May. They are stopping the program and they're done.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, presumably you could go to your primary physician and request it if you decided at this point, right?
Yeah.
You can order it up.
Yeah. If you needed it or wanted it, I guess you could
I mean,
go.
who would do that, 6 months later and just be like, I do think I want that.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website, to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.